Welcome back to the Turnaround Summit. This is a whole day virtual summit that we've pulled together with joint forces, speakers that are spontaneous, who have quickly said yes, people that I really wanted to talk about today, leaders in their industry, in their topics. And we've already spoken to, talked about leadership in crisis, PR in crisis, the legal issues. And I have invited Shonte Taylor to talk about the mindset, because if that's not correct, we can't be thinking of anything else. So Shonte, can you please introduce yourself in terms of what's your background and how come you're an expert on this topic?
Absolutely, Sigrun. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone who's watching the replay. I am Shonte Taylor. I'm a neuroscientist and success strategist. I didn't start off that way. I was trained to do brain research on traumatic brain injuries, dementia, in the clinical world for about 20 years. And although I loved, everything about the brain, I found that telling people what was wrong with their brains, looking for what was wrong with the person's brain 8 to 10 hours a day just didn't fill me up. And I'm not saying that field is not needed. It's definitely needed, but I felt more empowering to share with people what they can get right with their brain, how they can enhance parts of their brain so that they can get to their highest level of potential. So I founded the Optimind Institute about 6 years ago. And from there, I'm training coaches and leaders to operate at the highest level of their brain power so that they can reach their potential and help those they influence to do the same.
Yes, and that's why I reached out to you, because I feel there is, some kind of paralysis. People are maybe thinking, oh, the best thing to do right now is not to do anything. And I'm doing the opposite. And I'm bringing you on to, give us some background to what's really going on in people's mind now when they fear, they're letting fear take over.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are dealing with it in their own ways. And I definitely have compassion for how people are reacting, because we're all at different stages of our lives, of our journeys. And, some people are like deer in headlights, right? Like, what do I do? Freeze, flight, or fight, even, we've seen it with the toilet paper in stores, or heard stories, crazy stories. I like to think of dealing with the brain and the mind in parallel to dealing with the human body. Okay, let's say that you have to run for a quick amount of time, very fast. Maybe there's a threat. Maybe you're saving a kid from getting ran over. Maybe there's a dog chasing you. Maybe you fall. The person that is going through it, depending on the level of their fitness, of how much muscle they have, how they've been keep nourishing their body and keeping it healthy, will determine how fast they recover. It will determine if they broke bones or anything like that, right? So I like to think of the brain the same way. The more resilient your brain is, the more you can deal with these type of challenges, because we're human beings, okay? We're always gonna go through a challenge. I mean, you're not human unless you're going through some kind of challenge. It can be small challenges, big challenges, surprise challenges. You can see it coming, but the way your brain is wired will determine how well you deal with that challenge and which part of your brain you are operating from and making decisions from. So some people may be operating from fear, some in survival mode. Some people, like yourself, Sigrun, is operating from, compassion, love, but you're also operating from your higher brain, prefrontal cortex, your right brain, your creative brain, and you're not letting your limbic brain or your emotional brain hijack, your higher thinking brain, logical brain, and ways to be creative in times like this. So we have to really be mindful of which part of the brain we are operating from. It's okay to feel fear. Fear is purposeful. It's there for a reason, but it shouldn't be chronic. We shouldn't be making our decisions from fear and doubt. We should be making informed decisions, you know, from information, from partly from our emotions, you know, because we are emotional beings, but we shouldn't be making them from fear. And partly the reason, I know people want to know this, part of the reason people operate from that survival brain is because they haven't dealt with things in their lives that would have helped them to create automatic thoughts of, you know, operating from that higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, okay? So maybe they didn't deal with trauma in their life. Maybe they didn't know they were traumatized and they just kind of, you know, kept going in life, because when we're kids, we're able to put up survival mechanisms to keep us, you know, sane, to keep us safe, you know, but those barriers start breaking down, those protective mechanisms, when we become adults, because we become less childlike, we become less imaginative, right? And so people really start experiencing the gaps and the holes in their emotional state when they become young adults. Oh my gosh, adulthood. Oh my gosh, bills. You know, you haven't created the resilience, and partly you need that from your parents as well, but you haven't created the mechanisms that would help you to foster and maintain a resilient brain. So now everybody is dealing with this one big challenge, right? So now collectively, those who did not foster a resilient brain, they're talking to each other, they're having conversations, they're watching the news 24 hours a day, you know, and it's just building upon that trauma and fueling, you know, those mental tracks of fear. And now you have cortisol and adrenaline that should be there for only short spurts. They're now chronically there. They're interrupting your sleep patterns. They're hijacking blood flow from your higher brain, and you're operating on the survival brain, right? You're scared all the time. This is coming out in how you deal with relationships. So we're going to see a lot of cracks in relationships as people are staying home together. You know, with your kids, you're going to, all of those things that we have tried to push under the rug, relationship issues, addiction issues, stuff we're not dealing with within ourselves, it's about to come out if you haven't dealt with them yet.
So what can people do if they have the feeling that this is kind of taking over their lives?
Yes. So one way we can think about this situation, and I am in no way minimizing it, okay? I just want to put that on the table, because I actually have a master's in biology in addition to the neurosciences. But what I know to be true is viruses are certain to me. So the brain doesn't like uncertainty, okay? The survival brain, the emotional brain, it's like, if this was your brain, this would be the brain stem that operates the automatic systems of your body, like beating of your heart and lungs. You don't want to think about that. It takes up too much energy. So it's on automatic mode. If you open up your hand, that would be the middle of your brain, your emotional brain, your short-term memory. So when people are operating from that space, they're operating from a level of uncertainty sometimes. But what I know about viruses is that a virus is going to do what it's going to do. I mean, we've studied viruses for decades, and we know that, yes, you can minimize it, but depending on its transmission, it will affect the population of the people, and it will, you know, harm people based on their what? Their immune fitness, right? I talked about the body fitness. You know, we got to talk about immune fitness, and we have to talk about brain fitness. It all works together. But I have a level of certainty because I understand viruses. And sometimes it has to take its course, right? There's other things in the world that I'm uncertain about that can trigger some of my fears. And that is just how man is operating, how woman is operating, how leaders are operating. That actually will put more fear in me than a virus. Okay, does that make sense? It's like viruses are certain.
Yeah.
Human beings are uncertain to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Irrational beings.
Exactly. So the more we can get people thinking about their brain and managing those fears and doubts and operating from that higher level, the more certain that they can become, and we can minimize the fear, not minimize the situation, but minimize the fear so that it's not hijacking your creativeness and your logistics on how you are going to deal with the situation. You know, you're not going to latch on to hoaxes and conspiracy theories to, you know, further fuel your fears, because that's in certain theories, conspiracies, hoaxes, those contribute to uncertainty, which then contributes to the fear and anxiety. So we have to put our energy into what we are certain about. We are certain that if we practice social distancing, that we can minimize our interaction with the virus. We are certain in this moment that we are healthy, you know, that we have our family with us, that we have love there, that we have food. And if we have enough, let's say, food and, you know, toiletries and all of that, then we can open up the pathways to our compassion. Like, what can I do to help others who are not as blessed as we are? That starts putting you at a higher level of your brain, of your empathy, right? And so when we're talking like this, Sigrun, when we're showing compassion and empathy as leaders, as coaches, other people will pick up on that. And there's a special neurons in the brain called mirror neurons that are responsible for our empathy. So we can actually pick up and experience other people's compassion and empathy when we are seeing them speak about being compassionate or empathetic, or seeing them actually implement acts of empathy. That's why we need leaders to be talking on that level of compassion and empathy and doing the things that will help everybody, you know, and not attacking people, or none of that is helpful. We need to show as much love and compassion as possible in this moment, and certainty, what we can be certain about, but not make decisions based on fear.
So that makes a lot of sense. So if I, instead of focusing on the fear that all of us might feel at some point in time when it comes to this,
yes,
twist it around and start serving other people and showing love and compassion and leading, then I am moving, like you said, I'm moving from here back to 4, and I will minimize the fear because I get certain. So I am certain we're doing this virtual summit today, and I know that I'm gonna have, you know, food. We have food for the next 2 weeks or whatever. Like, I'm not so panicky like the other people. I didn't do the toilet paper thing.
I did the toilet paper because we needed some.
Yeah. But basically twisting that around, and then does the fear just then go away, or is it the temporary relief? Does it depends on what happens then next?
Well, everybody has a base level of how they experience fear and anxiety. Like I said, if people haven't dealt with their trauma, their past, or anything like that, they're probably going to, you know, have a lower threshold to get to the fear state or anxiety state. People who are dealing with depression already, you know, people who are already in that category of, you know, being triggered more easily, maybe they're in therapy or they need therapy or something like that and never really identified it. You know, they're going to get triggered faster. And the people who have developed a more, you know, resilient brain over time, it's just like building muscles, right? You know, getting fit, that takes time. Your brain is no different. It takes time for all those brain cells to connect, make new connections, stronger connections, so that you're thinking more positively versus more negatively. to reverse. So our brains are naturally 5 times more susceptible to threat and fear than reward, first of all. Facts, people. Let's talk about brain facts for a second. You have 100 billion brain cells, okay, 80 to 100 billion brain cells, and they're all talking to each other. At 200 miles per hour, they can make connections. And when they make connections, it's called neuroplasticity. It's basically like branches of a tree connecting with other branches of the tree. And we can make trillions and trillions and trillions of connections, right? We're almost limitless. But those connections matter. The types of connections matter. So if we have connections that are linked to fear and then memories of fear, it's going to keep getting reinforced. But if we have crafted our brain for connections of optimism, strategies to cope with challenges, right? We're going to default to that instead of defaulting to the fear, the stress, the memories that we link many of our fears to. And a lot of this is under our unconscious brain, and that is why we have to deal with those underlying issues. So we know when we have problems in our marriage. We know when we have problems with our kids. We know when we're burnt out and stressed out. We're not our best person sometimes, but we push it under the rug. And we push it under the rug, and there becomes this bulk in the rug, right? And somebody's going to trip. One day you're going to trip over it, right? And so you have to start dealing with that. And this situation is going to reveal a lot that people need to sit down and get quiet, start dealing with, And there's a lot of ways to harness a resilient brain. Okay. Of course, I can't get into all of it today.
No, some tips were very helpful. Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad you're getting a lot from this. So one of the things that people pretty much know, it's one thing to be informed. It's another thing to be immersed in the news, right? That's just reasonable and logical to keep up to date on what is going on in your community, in your city, with globally. That's just being a responsible adult. Okay, even my kids are keeping up with the basics. But when you wake up with the news and you go to bed with the news, in the background, you're triggering all kind of stuff. You worry, fear, stress, whatever you heard on the news, you're waking up to it and going to bed with it, and you're dreaming about it, whether you remember the dream or not. And that is exhausting, right? So that wears on your brain and your resilience to deal with other challenges that will come up during this time and other times. So we have to really be mindful of what we are consuming mentally. Just like when you're trying to get fit, you have to be mindful of what you are nourishing your body with, right? The brain requires a lot of physical energy as well. So it requires people to exercise so you can bring in oxygen to your 80 billion brain cells, because that's how your brain makes energy. In fact, your brain requires 20% of the energy and calories from your body. That's more than any other organ in the body. I mean, if you just think about that, it's like, the brain, I guess it is pretty important, huh?
Busy. It's using a lot of energy. Yeah.
Yes. So it's absolutely essential that we make sure that we are not just physically nourishing our brain, but we are not taking in information that's not fueling our brain, because it will cause those negative thoughts and images that will still eat up energy in the form of stress and worry and anxiety. You may not even know what's going on per se, right? When it bubbles up to the surface, fear and anxiety, it's probably already too late. Your body probably has already been in a chronic state of stress and anxiety. So we have to do the things that are ongoing to build a resilient brain and help to minimize those fears. Just like, I'm going to keep going to the body analogy because everybody can, resonate with it.
Yeah.
You can't just go to the gym once. You can't just, and expect to have a great body. You can't just, eat an apple or a salad and drink enough water one day. You have to do it every day. There's something that you can do to channel your brain's resilience and put it in the conditions where it can thrive every day. You have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
For these moments, right? And you can do it with the smaller challenges in life, right? First, so that when you get to these moments, you can be in a better place mentally and not get caught up with that, the herd mentality, the fear mentality, and you can listen logically to the information given and use discernment and rationale in order to make the decisions for you and your family, for you and your employees, for your business. You have to work on it as you go along on this journey of life. And that does mean you actually have to learn how your brain operates so that you can be that resilient coach, leader, parent, to the people you influence.
Yeah. You said before, like, one thing is to be informed by the news, and the other thing is to be almost like obsessed, like constantly checking and thinking about it all the time. So your dreams actually become about that. What else can someone do? Like, just say, okay, we're already in the middle of it. So going back and making sure the brain is prepared, that's already, we can't do that anymore. But we're in the middle of it. How can we ensure we do some daily practices? Just like you said, going to the gym. What daily practices need we do with our brain to, make sure we can go this, with as little stress as possible?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would say is really assess where you are right now in your emotional state, since all this has really, come to the forefront. Have you been at a level 10 in your stress, worry, and anxiety, or level 1? People at a level 1 or a 2 probably don't need to do as much as someone that's been a 9 or a 10, right? So that's number 1, assess where you are on the scale from 1 to 10. And the next step I would say is to determine why it's not good for you to be at a level 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. What is it affecting you? How's it affecting you physically, your mental state, your decisions? Do you like how you feel at that state? Why is it important for you to change? What's going to happen if you keep operating at level 9 or 10? Mm-hmm. Where are you feeling it in your body? Is it taking its toll on your health? Do you feel worn out? Are you exhausted? I want you to start asking yourself questions now that everybody is in a space. They can just sit and, listen to their inner wisdom and get honest. Get honest with yourself. We lie to ourselves all the time, right? It's like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not that. And then they distract themselves. Well, it's hard to distract yourself now because you have to sit with it. So that would be number 2. Now, a lot of people expect me to go straight to the brain and what to do, but really these are, if you don't have a deeper why of why you need to change, then you're not going to change. There's not going to be any strategy that you will, consistently put in place, because that's just not how the human behavior operates, right? You have to have a deeper why to actually implement strategies and really believe that they will work. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing about assessing why it's important to you is who else is it affecting? Mm. When you're putting out that energy of fear and anxiety and worry, is it affecting your team when you're on the phone with them and now you're having a meeting online? Is your pattern of speaking on the lines of fear and, being destitute and all of that? Because that is going to be felt with your team, and they're going to have anxiety and stress, and they're not going to show up at their best at work, right? Their creativity is going to be reversed because now you're going to have reverse blood flow from the right brain to your emotional brain. Okay, your emotional brain is a energy hungry beast. Okay, and you know, if you activate that fear brain, then all the blood flow will get reversed to the fear brain, because that is 5 times more powerful than the other side of the emotional brain. Okay, I tend to repeat myself on some things because I want it to stick in people's heads, right?
I know, that's how our brain works, so we need to hear it a few times. Yeah,
exactly. So once you figure out who it's also affecting, then that makes you a better leader, because now you're being empathetic, you're being considerate, you're being understanding, that you have to show up from a more powerful place within you, because you are affecting other people's emotions and decisions, right? And their ability to thrive and cope in this world. That's what leaders do.
Yeah.
Right? That's what coaches do. That's the place we're supposed to operate from. So just to review, assess where you are 1 to 10. 2, what's your deeper why? How is it affecting you physically, mentally, your decisions? And who else is it affecting? Okay. And then some of the things that you can physically do is limit what is coming into your brain feed. Okay. Not limit, filter.
Filter,
yeah. Is a better word. Filter what's coming into your brain feed. One of the best things you could do, of course, is not listen to news 24 hours a day. Another thing is to listen to credible news or read credible news. And everybody has their definition of credible. What I would say is listen to the pattern of how the journalists speak about things. Listen to their words, because that's very telling about if they're impartial or not. Okay. And if they're just really just giving you the facts and they're backing it up. Because if they're using doom and gloom words, if they are denigrating people, you know, if they're bullying people or saying negative things about other human beings in this time, they probably are not the best people to listen to right now, because that'll just fuel your negativity. And when we're in a vulnerable state, in our emotional state, you know, if we're fired up on that threat fear side, then we'll lean more towards negative thoughts and blame, and then more fear, and it'll just keep getting channeled. And your brain will respond. Your brain cells will respond. You will actually be growing branches from your brain cells into more negativity, fear, anxiety, blame. That's a whole different level of energy. And you have to decide, do I want to operate from those places? Do I want to keep listening to someone who's talking from that space? Is it helping me to be my higher self? Is it going to get me out of the place of fear and anxiety right now? Okay, so that's the next one. Filter what's coming in. You know, start reading those spiritual things that ground us, you know, that helps us to rise to the occasion. Start reading those stories where humanity has, when they come together, we can get through anything.
Yeah,
you know?
like the people clapping in Spain for the health workers at 8 p.m. I think they're doing that in Iceland this evening at 8 p.m.
Oh,
or
wow.
the people singing from the balconies in Italy because they are quarantined in their houses. I am looking for those stories. So thank you for talking about that. Yeah.
Yes, that's great, Sigrun. Look for the good. You know, Mr. Rogers, I'm a Gen Xer, I know you are too. You know, we grew up with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, okay? And he would always, you know, he would make sure that he brought community together. You know, I think it was in the time of the 60s and 70s when he started, and there was a lot of like discrimination and still happening in the US. And he would make sure that his, you know, people he brought into his show was, they were diverse in character, right? He showed compassion and empathy. And he would say, you know, look for the helpers, right? So look for the helpers. Your brain, it is a goal achieving machine. If you give it the instructions, it will follow your command. You know, look for the good stories. Look for the, you know, the people who will uplift your spirit. Look for the, you know, acts of compassion that are happening all over the globe, more than you are, you know, hearing it from the news or whatever. Not just the news, people on your Facebook feed with all these ideas and theories, you know, scarcity mindset. Remember, I'm going to repeat it again.
Yeah, good.
Your fear brain is 5 times more powerful than your reward brain. Okay, so I need you to watch 5 or 10 times more of good, looking for the good and putting good inspirational things in your head than, you know, activating that fear. When the fear comes up though, because it's going to come up, there's still things happening. You know, you may have somebody that's been affected. Some people are experiencing people who have actually passed away, you know, and that's sadness, that's grief, that's fear, that's still on the side of, you know, that strong emotion. And I would say to, you know, feel that. It's okay to feel it. But you have to realize when you need to shift out of it though. Okay, and you have to determine, is the fear real? You know, fear is really something that hasn't happened yet. Right?
Yeah, and I always wonder why we're so focused on the negative. Like, you know, let's say you have 100 happy clients and then one complains, and your focus, your brain goes there, and then you think just about that. You know, I'm not sure, I don't know why it's this way, but that's how can
you know why now?
Because of it's
5
stronger.
times. Yeah.
5 times stronger. We know that now. Now we've learned something.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So when I started my entrepreneurial journey 7 years ago, right? I was like, I'm so glad my niche is the brain, because you're going up and down emotionally in your entrepreneurial journey. And that first time someone unsubscribes from your list, but you have thousands of people on your list, but oh my gosh, one person unsubscribed, they don't like me. You start going downward spiral of negativity and why me, and you're forgetting about the 2,000 other people on your list that you're serving that didn't subscribe, that opened that email, that emailed you and said, I'm so glad you shared this with me today, you know? Yeah. And so we have to focus as much as possible on the good. So the next thing you can do after filtering what's coming in your brain feed is to get grounded. You know, anxiety and worry is about the future, right? Depression, depressive type, grief, regrets, that's from the past. In the present moment, all you have is now. And most of the time, we are okay now. Get present, get grounded, and that will start to minimize the worry, the fear, the regrets, the pain, the sadness, the grief, whatever side of the space-time continuum you're on at the moment. Come to center. You know, if it's hard for you to come to center through like focusing on your breathing or studying your hands or, you know, something like that, if someone is in your household, get present with them. Play a game. Have a conversation where you are hanging on to every single word like you've never heard them speak before. You know, listen and look into their eyes. When you look in someone's eyes, by the way, you are building up that oxytocin in the brain, which is responsible for trust and love and connection. How many times have we gotten so busy that we forget to connect with those that are the most important to us? Look for the gifts in this experience. I get to just have a conversation, an uninterrupted conversation, and just listen and connect and bond, right? That gets you out of what's happening in the world or what you could have did or should have did or anything like that. And every time you do that, this is the beautiful thing about the brain, right? Every time you make a decision and you act on it, your brain is growing in that direction. See, you don't need a lot of fancy scientific names to understand the brain. You just need to understand how it works. So every time you feel, out of sorts and out of control, remember you really have control in this moment. Mm-hmm. And every time you do that, you are building a more resilient brain. And this is why it's important to build a resilient brain in the moment and as along the journey too. I'm going to give you an example, if I may, Sigrun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
Okay. If we are, in school and there's fire drills, right? What are we really learning, Sigrun? What are we learning, Sigrun, during a fire drill?
We're getting prepared for a fire.
Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? Being prepared means you are listening for the signals that will tell your brain that there is an emergency. Yeah. Now, it's in a safe environment because your teacher tells you, be prepared for a fire drill. You're going to hear a sound. It's going to be alarming, but it's not a real fire. We're just going to practice. So that automatically minimizes your fear threat brain because your brain is primed and prepared for the experience. Yeah. That's the most optimal time, to use your brain. But because you're not, there's not a flooding of stress and adrenaline and all of that, you're able to operate on a more calm level. Now, maybe there's a little bit of anxiety, you're excited, you're a kid, you get to leave school, the classroom is something different, so it's a different kind of energy. Yeah. So you still have some dopamine, you still have a little bit of stress, which a little bit of stress is actually good for learning, actually. So, but what else are you learning? You're learning the pathway to get out of the school safely. You're learning to follow instructions. You're following your teacher. You understand that you're going to be safe. You're going to be in a safe place, and you're going to let the powers that be handle it, right? You're going to let the emergency people handle it. There is a plan in place. So if a fire actually starts, you know what to do. Maybe there's going to be a little upheaval, right? Maybe there's going to be a little bit more stress and a little bit more adrenaline once you realize it's actually a thing. But now you already have the mental pathways to get out of there in an orderly way, and you don't have to jump to level 10 in fear and anxiety. Mm-hmm. Because your brain already automatically knows what to do. So it's better to learn not under stress and anxiety. It's better to already have had the mental tracks laid down for bigger challenges. Yeah. And here's the kicker about learning and building a resilient brain before, disaster strikes. If you're in a different building and there's a fire, your brain will still have the solution finding abilities and have the threshold not to jump to level 10 still, because you have mental pathways that will help you to get creative, and be thoughtful instead of being hijacked by fear and anxiety. You're able to be a little bit more clear-headed because you build up the mental pathways of resilience in an emergency. Yeah. So it doesn't even really matter the building because you have built up the resilience in your brain to get out of and handle any situation. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really why you brought me on today, Sigrun. It's like, you gotta just build up a resilient brain for times like this, especially as parents, as leaders, as coaches, because these times will come and we can't predict every situation. That will be exhausting to predict every particular situation that the human beings can experience. It's infinity. It's exhausting. So we might as well build up a resilient brain to be able to withstand anything that comes in our way as human beings.
Yeah. I think you have a great plan for us. We're already in a crisis. And we have to accept it. I think that's the first thing. And then do the things that Shonte has recommended to us in terms of building that habit every day. Focus on the good, not be consumed by the negative news. Focus.
Yes.
Also pick your communities, I would say. Pick the people you follow. Besides the news, I think a lot of people are spending a lot of time on social media. Yeah. And I would highly recommend you unfollow people that bring you negative energy in some shape or form, or you do it. There's a pause button, I think now, even on some social media channels. So you can just say pause for 30 days, and then you can check after 30 days if the person is giving you negative energy or not. If you surround yourself with positive people doing positive things, like, you know, this virtual summit today, we are bringing you hope, even if we're talking about things that are not so nice. We're bringing you hope. We're bringing you a way out, and focus on spending time with people that bring you hope, I would say. Stephanie has a question about food. Does food have anything to say with the brain?
Absolutely.
I was waiting for the answer.
I mean, food is a piece of the puzzle to have a thriving brain. Okay, so a lot of people just want to do that one thing. They want that one magic pill, right? I used to sell brain supplements some odd years ago, but I stopped because that's all people wanted. They didn't want to go further into really, you know, crafting the brain they need to be successful, right? And so I took that option away, because if you're not doing the other things and you're depending upon this pill, the pill is not going to work. Okay. So with food, I say the same thing. It is it's a huge piece of the puzzle for a strong, resilient brain, because your brain uses up so much fuel, but it needs quality fuel. Your brain cells are very different from your heart cells, from your muscle cells, from your immune cells. So it does have a lot of different requirements just because of the anatomy of a brain cell. Okay, so all those things you read from Dr. Amen and Dr. Mark Hyman, and, you know, those books on brain nutrition, yes, do those things. Remember, that's a part of building a holistically strong brain.
Beautiful, beautiful. Shonte, what is the best place to find out more about you and what you do? I know you generally are helping leaders, coaches work on a higher level with the brain. Now we've been focusing a lot about the resilience. So we've made people curious. I know you have a TEDx talk, so we'll link to that below the Facebook Live video. Oh, and also, guys, if you're watching this and you're enjoying this conversation, please go ahead and share the Facebook Live. We have a separate Facebook Live for each interview. So every interview that you're enjoying, please share that one to your audience so that more people can enjoy this conversation. Shonte, how can people find you?
Yes. One more thing to help people.
Yeah.
Set a goal during this time. Okay, set some kind of goal. The more specific, the better, because that will automatically, if the goal is important to you, first of all, it will help you to put your blinders on a little bit and help to weed out distractions. We know from neuroscience that when we have a specific goal, our brain gets more attention, brings more attention to that specific goal, and your thoughts start to be more focused on how to accomplish that goal. So you automatically start reprioritizing your thinking, your thoughts, how you use your energy, how you use your time. You're more purposeful with how you use your energy and time. So I would say during this time, if you've been putting off something, building a deck, or rearranging your furniture, or upgrading your living room, or writing that book, or creating that webinar, or starting a business, whatever it is, set that goal during this time. That will help to minimize your fear, worries, anxiety, and give you something to work on, so you're stepping more into your power, your greatness, and your higher self. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, perfect. We love it. I love setting goals. Yeah. Thank you so much. How do we find you online, or how
you can find me anywhere online. I'm on, just look up my name.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm on Facebook quite a bit. I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook group, the Art and Neuroscience of Coaching and Leadership. I have my website, ShonteTaylor.com, OptimineInstitute.com. I know you'll write all this down. I know I'm talking a little bit fast, but basically I'm on all media outlets. You can find me if you are goal oriented. I know you can do it, everybody. Yes, I did do 2 TEDx talks, one back in 2014, I believe, Gen X, Lost Minds and Great Minds. And basically I'm just talking about a generation who, you know, just want to get to their highest level, but something is holding them back mentally. And I give tips on how to, you know, overcome your fears and anxiety and worries to get to your higher self, understanding the brain and your purpose. My second TEDx talk was last year. It was on, you know, change your brain, change the world, and just about the compassion and empathy that we can do, show and demonstrate daily. Is enough to change our brains, change our hearts, and really bring humanity back together again. So if you need help,
it couldn't be a better topic for the times we're going through right now. Wow.
I know, right? I'm like, perfect, nailed it. No. Yes.
Beautiful.
So if you do go to my website, I do have a ebook that you can download right away. It is just 10 tips on how you can use neuroscience in your business, profession, and if you want to just be a, you know, thought leader or just the greatest human being ever.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Shonte. I know you have a full day workshop ahead of you. She came on extra 8 a.m. her time to be with us today. Thank you for your time and insights. We love the conversation. So beautiful comments here, both on the Facebook Live and in Zoom. Thank you. Thank you for today, and wish you all the best. We'll be in touch. We'll put all the links together. We'll send out a special email tomorrow. Everybody who signed up for us, we'll send all the links and the recordings tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sigrun. I appreciate you and all that you're doing in the world. Everybody who's on, thank you for showing up. Keep showing up and go change the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.